Everybody, and welcome to the first CSS lesson. Tonight we're going to be learning how to take our simple HTML, apply CSS to it, and make it and give it a little bit of style, so that way it's not so plain. We won't go too much into actual styling. We'll look at just more of how to apply styling in the future. So that way, when we get started with styling, you know the different options you have to apply it and what the pros and cons of them are. So in the first case, we're going to be using the style attribute, and this is one of the worst ways to do it. So we'll start with the worst way and we'll go to better ways. So if I wanted to, I can do style, the style attribute inside of the h1 tag here. It's just like any other attribute, like href down here. And what I can do is inside of this, I can apply Css Decorations. So let's go ahead and do color red, and we'll go ahead and apply that. As you can see, it's red. Now I'm going to put a semicolon because this is a full decoration, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a semicolon to break it up to put the next decoration. So we're going to start with the property of font weight, and we're going to set this to normal. So right now you can see that it's bold, and if we set this to normal and save it, you can see that it's no longer bold. So we've changed the h1's default behavior of being bold to just being the normal weight. And so pretty much what you can see is we have one decoration here, and then we divide that with the semicolon. So the semicolon normally always goes at the end of the line. You'll see this more as we progress. And then we're just going to go ahead and put in our next one right next to it. And we don't have to put this in, the semicolon in, because it's the last one, but if you want to, you can put it in. It's up to you. I tend to leave them off if it's the very last one. So we can also apply, so here you can see that we have our menu here. And if I want to, I can go ahead and apply another style to this. So as you can see, I'm just adding a second attribute to the A tag here for the menu. And I'm going to go ahead and say color green and font size, and let's say that we want it to be 24 pixels. So if we apply that, you can see the colors changed, and now it's 24 pixels, so it's bigger. So if we wanted to apply this style to the about, what we could do in this case is we could copy it like this, and we could paste it, save it. Now we have the same result on both. So you can see we're starting to get a little bit of color here. However, we're already discovering a problem. This problem is that we're duplicating a lot of CSS in just these two lines right here. So you can say that they're both the A tag, and we're applying the same exact style to both of them. So what's the second option to applying style? Well, what we can do is up in the head tag, we can add a style tag. Now the style tag will work pretty much anywhere in the page, so if you put it in the body, it would work. But the thing is that in modern CSS, that can cause some weird effects in certain situations. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and keep it in the head tag. So what we need to do is we're going to need to use a selector to figure out how we're going to change this. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these two lines of code right here, and we'll reapply them in a different way. So this is the second way to apply CSS. So if we save this, they'll go back to normal. So we have our style tags here. We have this open. Now in this case, we need to use a selector to select the A tags. So what I'll go ahead and do is I will use I have a little document over here to help me with the different things. So this is an element type selector. I've been working with CSS for a long time, but I really don't know this terminology really. So I'm going to be learning this pretty much with you, and that will help me in teaching later in future courses and stuff. So we're going to be using the element type selector here, and so what we're going to do is we're going to actually target the A tag. So down here you can see we're targeting these A tags, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on curly braces, which are the ones that kind of bend, and then they have the little point, and then they bend back. So just so you're aware, there's you'll see different kind of things. So you'll see curly braces, you'll see square brackets, and you can see parentheses, and there's probably another one that I'm not seeing. But these are some of the different things you can use. In CSS, we use the curly brace. So one of the things I like doing when I create these tags, so I'm going to target the A tags. I'm going to, in Atom, what you can do is you can hold Shift, and then you can go ahead and put the curly brace, and you'll see that it puts the first and the opening and the closing one. And if the cursor by default is in the middle, if you just hit Enter, it will break it right there. So that's kind of a trick to not have to kind of manually space these out. So what we're going to do is, so we have our selector. Our A is going to select all the A tags, and we're going to apply some color to them. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our decorations right here. So I'm going to say green, and then we will add our font size. And as you can see, it's trying to suggest things to me. And we'll say this will be, what we have, 24 pixels. Now one of the things I like doing is when I add these, I like to actually have a space after the colon, and this is only, like if I do styling in line like this is called Inline Styling, I tend to not keep the spacing in there, but when I'm actually writing it out in like the style tag or the other method we're going to learn, I tend to like to put the space right here. So as you can see, the difference here is that we're able to apply this color to both tags at the same time and save some text. So instead of having to repeat ourselves, we can actually target the A tags and just tell them to change. And the great thing about this is if I add another link down here and then I apply, let's just call it contact, and we'll just come right here, contact, and we save it like this, you can see that it's applied to all of them, and you don't have to go through, because if I added this, then I'd have to go in and add the style tag to this one also. And that makes it a little bit more of a pain, especially as you get going, because if you have 10 different pages with, say, the same menu, well, the problem is that you're going through and you're reapplying it to, say, 3 elements here. So in this case, if we had 3 different pages, we'd apply it 9 times to these A tags, as with this way, we'd have to apply it on each page, so we'd end up applying it 3 times. So this is the third way, or the second way of doing this, which is using the style tags to do it. And if you want to target something else, so for instance, we still have this inline style for the H1. If we want to, what we can do is we can take this out. So we'll go ahead and take this style out, and we'll reapply the rules. Now what I like doing with my styles is, it's kind of hard to keep CSS kind of clean. So what I like to do is I tend to keep my CSS flowing down. So as you can see, the A tags are kind of below the H1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come above the A tag. It doesn't matter where I put it, but like I said, it just kind of makes it easier to read through. You kind of know that the H1 is going to be above the A tags in this scenario. So what we can do is we can say color red, and we can say font weight normal, and we can reapply it. So that's simply how you apply it. Now the other thing is you can also use this kind of syntax if you want. It's not, I wouldn't say it's as clean. It does kind of compress it a little bit so your code isn't so scrunched up. And we can get rid of this space here if we wanted to. We could get rid of these spaces. CSS is pretty fluid in what you do. And since this is the last rule in this decoration block, which is basically this area here, what we can do is we can actually get rid of that semicolon. We don't need the semicolon here or here. So, and that's the same result. So this is the second way of doing this. The third way of doing this is actually, I have an extra file here that's not supposed to be here. So that's actually not correct, but I just noticed that. So the third way of doing this is actually to create a CSS file. Now the way that I like to do my CSS structure for files is I like to create a new folder, and I tend to call this assets, and then inside my assets folder I create another new folder. I call this CSS, and then inside of this I would create a CSS file called, we'll just do new file, and the name can vary. I mean, some people like style.css, some people like main.css. You can call it whatever you want. I tend to call mine master.css. I just like that. So I'm going to call mine master.css. And what we need to do, so as you can tell, in this index.html, if we remove this right here, this page has no way, this HTML page has no way to know that this master.css exists other than it's in the same file system. So what we need to do is we need to link this master.css to our HTML page. So in order to do this, we're going to learn a new HTML tag, and this is called the link tag. Now I know that you're probably thinking, why did they call the A tag, or the anchor tag, the one that you use for links, why didn't they call that link? Well, it's probably something to do with this. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to link our CSS page to this HTML page. So what we're going to do is we're going to say rel, which stands for relationship. We're going to say style sheet, and then we're going to say href. So these are the two tags, and then we're going to point to the location of the CSS, and this is a single tag, so you don't have to, there is no link tag. This doesn't exist here, so you don't have to do that. It's just a single tag, so it's just an open tag. It doesn't have a closing tag. So in order to navigate to this, so as you can see, if we close the assets, you can see that we're in ShyU. We have index.html. We need to go into the assets folder, so we'll do assets. And then if we open up the assets folder, so now we're in here, we need to look at here, so we need to go into the CSS folder. So we do our /CSS, and then we need to go inside of that CSS folder and go to master.css. So if we do another /master.css. So now what I've done is I've actually linked the CSS file, and now we can actually start using it to creating styles. So pretty much here's our ShyU, our normal page. We've already dealt with that. So how do we apply CSS to this? Well, if we go to the master.css file that we just created, we pretty much can, we don't have to create the style tags or anything like that. We can actually just start targeting stuff. So if I say H1, and then I can say color red, font weight normal, and we apply it, you can see it instantly changes. And then if we go here and we do A, color green, and then we do, I'm trying to think, font size 24 pixels, you can see that we now have the same exact style, but it's in a separate page. Now, why would it be beneficial to have this in a separate file? Well, if we, let's say we're just navigating on our site, and let's say we were just using the style attribute, as you know, we'd be retyping a lot of this code. So we already saw that with the style tags, that we can use the style tags to not have to write as much code. Well, in linking an external file to our page, the benefit is that we can link this page to other HTML pages, and we just have one file to rule them all, and that's very beneficial. So if I still had the style tag and we went to the about page, well, the about page would look pretty much normal. In this case, when I click on the about, you'll see that the style, oops, oh, I forgot to change this, so I actually changed this to about.html, and we'll just change this really quick. So if I were to click on the about now, you'll see that we come back in here, but it's still the same style. Now if we had the style tags here and we applied it, well, it still wouldn't be in this page. So that's not really beneficial. We'd have to copy the whole style tag and then place it at the top of this page. Well, in linking this, what we can do is we can just copy this link. We can go to about.html and we can paste it, and instantly you see the results come in from this master.css. And the great thing about this is, let's say that we don't like, well, let's say that this H3, let's say that it's too small and we want to make it bigger. So we can go into this master .css file, and we can say h3, and we can say font size, and let's say we want it 24 also. So we'll say 24 pixels. We apply that. You can see that it's now bigger, but if we go back to our home page, it's also bigger here. So by changing this one file, we've affected two different files, and so this is the best way of doing it. Because the other great thing, like let's say this red, let's say we don't like red anymore, and we want, let's say purple. Give this a try. So let's say we wanted purple, so we changed it here in our about page. Well, now when we go to the home page, it's still purple. So having this external file is better in most cases. Now where you might want to use the style tags and the style attribute is, let's say you're working on a page. So if we have this, let's say we have this file and it's massive. We have tons of decorations in it, and it's just this massive file. What the problem with this is that maybe, let's say that 50% of the styles don't apply to every page. So you're loading in 50% of the styles for pages that it doesn't matter. So in that case, let's say that you have one page like the contact form, and that's the only place you're going to have the contact form. It might be better to just put the styles in that page using the style tag and apply it that way. Now you can use all three different methods on a page, on an HTML page. It's not like you have to choose one over another. You can use all three methods in the same HTML page. So pretty much what I'm saying is that instead of putting the contact styling in every single page, because the about page isn't going to have the contact information and the home page isn't going to have it, what you can do is instead in the contact you can just use the style tag, put the styles in only in the contact page, and that makes it load faster, so the other pages don't slow down by having to load the styles that they don't need. And then using the style attribute is pretty much looked down upon pretty heavily, but the only reason I would ever say that you need to use it is if that tag that you're applying that style to is literally like the only tag in the page, or the only tag in the site that is going to get that style. Because like I said, downloading that extra code, say if you put that style into the master.css and literally there's one place on your entire site that uses that style, well, you're just making people download it for every single page, and so that's not helpful. You can have as many CSS files as you want. So we could, if we wanted to, we could link another one and say we want, let's say we call this overwrite. And remember how I said that it's cascading style sheet? So that means that master will load in first, it will apply its styles, and then overwrite will come in and it will apply its styles. Now the thing is that if I create the overwrite file, and say that I change in the overwrite file, I change this color to green for the H1, well, the color is going to be green because it will overwrite this purple color here because it's lower. It's the lower file, and that's where the cascading comes from. It also depends on the rule too. So if I come down here and I say, let's say H1 down here, and I say color green, well, you can see the color's green, but the font weight is still normal, and that's because the only thing this H1 down here is going to overwrite is this color here. So that's pretty much how cascading style sheets work. They flow down. So it starts here, it applies this, it applies this, it applies this, and then it applies this. And if this overwrites something in this, then it will apply the lower version, and that's also applies in files too. So if overwrite were to implement the same thing, but change it to red, well, then the H1 would be red. And that's how it works. So if you have any questions or anything, hit me up on discord.ShyUniversity.com. Hopefully you were able to understand this video. Go ahead and give me feedback, whatever you want. And let me know. And in the next video, we will be looking at how to actually start to use these different methods to actually start altering these pages pretty heavily. So far you've only learned a few properties that you can interact with, but there's literally hundreds of them, and as you mess with CSS more and more, you'll get more and more used to them, and you'll learn little tricks and stuff like that of how to make your site actually start popping and making it look awesome. So thanks for watching.